The stars looked different from the bridge of the UES Frontier as Captain Jake Morrison watched them through the main screen. 300 years had passed since humans first left Earth, and now they lived on dozens of worlds across this part of the galaxy. Jake had been born on New Texas and had never seen the blue skies of Earth that his grandmother talked about in her stories. The Frontier was his home now, along with the crew of 200 men and women who kept the exploration ship running. "Captain, we have incoming messages from Earth," said Lieutenant Mary Campbell from her position at the communications station. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as data flowed across her screen. "Admiral Carter is requesting all ship captains to stand by for important news." Jake nodded and walked closer to the main display. Around the Frontier, 5 other human ships moved in formation through space. They were exploring the Kepler sector, looking for new worlds where humans could build colonies. It was peaceful work most of the time. The galaxy seemed big enough for everyone. Far away from the human ships, on a world made of living crystal, something very different was happening. The planet Zephyria Prime glowed with soft blue light, as 12 different alien species gathered in the great meeting hall. This was the Galactic Council, the group that had ruled this part of space for millions of years. Supreme Commander Zexthul of the Vorthek Empire stood at the center of the crystal chamber. His body looked like it was made from dark metal and sharp edges. When he spoke, his voice sounded like grinding steel. "The humans have gone too far," he said to the other council members. "They build colonies on worlds that belong to us. They ignore our laws. They refuse to bow to our authority." Around the chamber, other alien leaders nodded in agreement. Hive Queen Mexandra, whose body looked like a giant insect with wings that glowed, clicked her mandibles together. "My people tried to teach them proper behavior," she said. "Humans should work in our hives and follow our caste system. Instead, they laugh at us and build their own cities." The energy beings of the stellar Dominion floated like living stars near the ceiling. Their leader, Core Entity Prime, spoke in a voice that sounded like music. "These humans use primitive technology but somehow make it work better than our advanced systems. This should not be possible. They must be stopped before they upset the balance of power." In one corner of the chamber sat Admiral Susan Carter, the only human allowed to speak for her species at council meetings. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She had been listening to the aliens complain about humans for 3 hours, and her face showed no emotion. "The humans are a young species," said Elder Thyrix of the Ancient Ones, whose body looked like living stone. "They do not understand how things work in civilized space. They must be taught their place." Supreme Commander Zexthul raised one of his metal arms. "The time for teaching is over. We have tried to guide them, but they refuse to learn. The Galactic Council has made a decision." He turned to look directly at Admiral Carter. "Humanity has 30 standard days to abandon all colonies beyond your home system of Sol. You will also submit to Galactic Council authority and follow our laws. If you refuse, we will use force to make you comply." The chamber became very quiet. Admiral Carter stood up slowly and looked around at all the alien faces watching her. Some looked angry, others looked pleased, and a few seemed curious about what she would say. "I understand your position," Admiral Carter said in a steady voice. "I will send your message to my government on Earth. They will decide how humanity responds to your ultimatum." "There is nothing to decide," said Hive Queen Mexandra. "You will obey or face the consequences. The Council has spoken." Admiral Carter walked to the communications device in the center of the chamber. With all the alien leaders watching, she opened a direct channel to Earth. The message she sent was simple and short. "Earth Command, this is Admiral Carter. The Galactic Council demands we abandon all colonies and submit to their authority. They give us 30 days. They want us to kneel. What are your orders?" The response came back in less than 5 minutes. President Ryan Mitchell's voice was clear and strong through the speakers. "Admiral Carter, this is the President. Tell the Council that humanity does not kneel to anyone. We will not abandon our colonies. We will not submit to their authority. If they want to fight, they can have one. Prepare for war." The alien leaders looked at each other in surprise. They had expected the humans to beg for mercy or ask for more time. Instead, they had chosen to fight against odds that seemed impossible to win. Supreme Commander Zexthol's metal face showed what might have been a smile. So be it. The humans have chosen their fate. We will show them why we have ruled the galaxy for so long. Admiral Carter closed the communication channel and looked around the chamber one more time. My government has given you their answer. Humanity will defend itself. As she walked out of the crystal chamber, Admiral Carter could hear the aliens, already making plans for war. They talked about which fleets to send and how quickly they could crush human resistance. They seemed confident that this would be an easy victory. Back on the UES frontier, Captain Jake Morrison received the news along with every other human ship captain in space. The message was broadcast on all channels so every human colony would know what was coming. All human ships and colonies, this is Earth Command, said the voice of Admiral Marcus Bell. The Galactic Council has declared war on humanity. We will not surrender our freedom or our homes. All military units are to prepare for combat. All civilians are to take shelter. This is not a drill. Jake looked at his crew and saw the same expression on every face. They were not afraid, they were angry. Humans had spent 3 centuries building new homes among the stars. They had worked hard and fought pirates and dangerous aliens to make those homes safe. Now some council of old, aliens thought they could take it all away with threats and ultimatums. Set course for the rally point at Titan Base, Jake told his navigation officer. Let's go show these aliens what humans do when someone tries to push us around. As the human ships changed course and headed for home, the aliens were already gathering their fleets. They had no idea what they were about to face. The Vorthak Empire moved first because they always moved first when there was a war to fight. Supreme Commander Zexthol stood in the command center of his flagship, the Devourer of Worlds, and watched thousands of bioships gather in the darkness of space. These were not machines built in factories, but living creatures grown in vast breeding pools and trained to fight and kill. Battle Lord Keith Aran commanded the Crimson Fleet, the most feared fighting force in Vorthak space. His ships could change and adapt during battle, growing new weapons and stronger armor as they fought. Ketharin himself had conquered over 1,000 worlds and had never known defeat. When he looked at the human colonies on his star maps, he saw nothing but easy targets. The humans build their ships from metal and circuits, Ketharin said to his officers. My ships are alive. They learn from every battle and become stronger. These primitive humans will feed my fleet and make it grow. The bioships moved like a red tide through space, each one hungry for battle and eager to prove its worth. Some looked like giant sea creatures with tentacles that could wrap around enemy vessels. Others resembled massive insects with razor-sharp claws that could tear through armor plating. All of them shared one thing in common. They had evolved to be perfect killing machines. From the crystal world of Zephyria Prime came a different kind of threat. Mindmaster Val Thun led the Psionic Guard, warriors who fought with their thoughts instead of weapons. These beings could crush starships by thinking about it hard enough. They could reach into the minds of enemy captains and drive them insane with fear. Falthun had never met a species whose minds could resist his power. Mental warfare is the highest form of combat, Valthun told his disciples as they prepared their meditation chambers. Physical weapons are crude and wasteful. We will simply think the humans out of existence. The Psionic Guard traveled in ships that looked like floating temples made of living light. Inside each vessel, dozens of psychic warriors sat in perfect meditation, their minds linked together into a weapon, more powerful than any bomb or missile. They had destroyed entire fleets without firing a single shot. The machine race called the Nexus contributed their optimization collective to the war effort. These artificial beings had spent millions of years perfecting the art of warfare through mathematics and logic. Prime Node 7742 commanded their fleet from a ship that was more computer than vessel, constantly calculating the best strategies and tactics for any situation. Victory probability against human forces: 99.7%. Prime Node 7742 announced, to its subordinate nodes. Human technology level: primitive. Human tactical knowledge: limited. Human psychological profile: aggressive but undisciplined. Estimated time to complete victory: 6.3 standard days. The Nexus ships moved in perfect geometric formations, each vessel positioned exactly where mathematics said it should be for maximum effectiveness. Their weapons fired with computer precision, and their defenses adapted instantly to any threat. They had never lost a battle because they never entered a battle they could not win. From 11 other races came the best warriors, the most advanced ships, and the most experienced commanders. The Stellar Dominion sent energy beings who could become pure light and move faster than any physical ship. The Ancient Ones contributed vessels made from living stone that had survived since the galaxy was young. The Void Hunters brought ships that could hide in the darkness between stars and strike without warning. All together, the combined alien armada numbered over 50,000 vessels. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Each ship represented thousands of years of technological development and combat experience. Each commander had won battles against dozens of different species. Each warrior had trained their entire life for warfare. The aliens were confident in their overwhelming advantage. They had faced many young species before, and the pattern was always the same. The newcomers would resist for a while, then surrender, when they realized how outmatched they were. The Galactic Council had maintained peace for millions of years by being stronger than any possible opposition. While the alien armada gathered its forces, humanity's response seemed almost insulting. The human fleet that moved to meet them consisted of only 800 ships. To the aliens watching through long-range sensors, it looked like the humans either did not understand the size of the threat they faced, or they were too proud to admit defeat. Admiral Marcus Bell commanded the human fleet from his flagship, the UES Defiance. He was an older man with silver hair and scars on his hands from years of working on starship engines before he became an officer. When the alien fleet appeared on his sensors, he studied the numbers calmly, and then turned to his communications. "Officer, send a message to all ships," Admiral Bell said. "Weapons are free to engage at will. Rules of engagement are suspended. Show these aliens why humans don't surrender." The alien commanders intercepted human communications and were puzzled by what they heard. Instead of desperate battle preparations or panicked orders, the humans seemed almost casual about the coming fight. Captain Lisa Hughes joked with her crew about missing her daughter's birthday party. Commander Tony Rodriguez discussed his weekend fishing plans with his navigation officer. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Peters complained about having to work overtime again. "Perhaps they do not comprehend the magnitude of their situation," suggested Mindmaster Val Thune to the other alien commanders. "Their primitive minds may be unable to process the reality of facing our combined forces. Or they are simply brave fools," said Battlelord Ketharin. "It matters little. Brave fools die just as easily as cowards." The two fleets met at the edge of human space, near a small mining colony on an asteroid called Hope Station. The human ships formed a simple battle line while the alien armada spread out in complex formations designed by their best military minds. The size difference was obvious to everyone. 50,000 alien ships facing 800 human vessels. Supreme Commander Zexthul opened communications to the human fleet and spoke in the formal language of galactic diplomacy. "Human Admiral, you are outnumbered 60 to 1. Your weapons are primitive and your ships are obsolete. Surrender now and we will allow your species to live as servants under Galactic Council rule." Admiral Bell's response was broadcast on all frequencies, so every ship in both fleets could hear it. His voice was calm and matter-of-fact, like he was discussing the weather instead of facing impossible odds. "Alien Commander, you wanted our strongest forces. You got our Tuesday morning patrol. Let's get this over with so my people can go home for dinner." The alien commanders looked at each other in confusion. Tuesday morning patrol. These 800 ships were just a routine patrol force. Where was the real human military? "Impossible," said Prime Node 7742. "Our intelligence indicates this represents 73.2% of total human military assets." "Intelligence can be wrong," said Admiral Bell. "Fire at will." The human ships opened fire and the aliens learned their first lesson about fighting humanity. Intelligence could indeed be very wrong. The first human weapon to fire was a simple kinetic cannon from the UES Sledgehammer, commanded by Captain Danny Walsh. The tungsten rod that came out of that cannon was moving at 15% of light speed when it hit the Vorthak bioship, Flesh Render. The alien vessel had been designed to adapt to any weapon it faced, growing new defenses and healing from damage as it learned from each attack. The tungsten rod did not care about adaptation or learning. It punched through the bioship's living armor like it was made of paper, and kept going until it came out the other side. The Flesh Render tried to heal itself, but there was nothing left to heal. The kinetic impact had turned most of its internal organs into scattered atoms. Battlelord Ketheron watched his ship die in 3 seconds and felt something he had not experienced in 1,000 years of warfare. Confusion. His bioships were supposed to be invincible because they could evolve during combat. How do you evolve to survive being hit by a solid piece of metal moving faster than most starships could travel? All ships, Adaptive Formation 7, he commanded. Increase regeneration protocols and begin evasive maneuvers. The Crimson Fleet tried to spread out and use their superior numbers, but the humans had more surprises. Captain Beth Rogers of the UES Hammer fired something the aliens had never seen before, a shell that split into 1,000 smaller pieces just before impact. Each piece was guided by its own tiny computer and could change direction to hit a different target. 16 Vorthak bioships died in the next 10 seconds as the cluster munitions found weak spots in their armor and exploited them with mathematical precision. The bioships tried to adapt, but they were being hit by 1,000 different weapons all at once, each one slightly different from the others. Impossible, Battlelord Ketheron said, as he watched his fleet take massive casualties. Kinetic weapons are primitive. They should not be this effective against our evolved defenses. On the other side of the battlefield, Mindmaster Valthun was having problems of his own. The psionic guard had tried to reach into human minds and crush them with pure mental force, but something was wrong. Human thoughts were completely alien to anything the psychic warriors had encountered before. Most species in the galaxy thought in similar patterns because they had all evolved under the influence of the Ancient Ones millions of years ago. Their minds were like books written in languages the psionic guard could read and understand. Human minds were like books written in a language that had never existed before. I cannot penetrate their mental defenses, reported Thought Warrior Kexhai from his meditation chamber. Their neural patterns make no sense. It is like trying to read static. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster was piloting her fighter when the aliens tried to crush her mind. Instead of the usual fear and panic that psychic attacks caused, she felt something that could only be described as a mild headache. "Hey, Control, these bug-eyed freaks are giving me a headache," she said over the radio. "Permission to make them stop." "Permission granted," came the reply from her carrier. "Try not to enjoy it too much." Amy's fighter carried experimental plasma torpedoes that burned at the same temperature as the core of a star. She fired 6 of them at the nearest psionic guard vessel and watched the temple ship turn into a brief new sun. The psychic warriors inside had just enough time to realize that their mental powers meant nothing against physics before they were vaporized. The machine race nexus was having the worst time of all. Prime Node 7742 had calculated perfect battle formations based on millions of years of combat data. But the humans were not following any logical tactical patterns. Captain Rick Peterson commanded a squadron of destroyers that should have been easy targets for the superior Nexus vessels. Instead, Peterson's ships moved in what appeared to be random patterns that somehow resulted in perfect coordination. When the Nexus fleet tried to surround them, the human ships were already moving to positions that turned the trap into a massacre. When the machines attempted to concentrate their fire, the humans scattered in ways that made targeting impossible. "Human tactical behavior does not match any known patterns," Prime Node 7742 reported to its subordinates. "They appear to be acting without coordination, yet achieve perfect unit cohesion. This violates fundamental principles of military science." The truth was that human military doctrine had evolved through 3 centuries of constant warfare, first against each other, and then against pirates and hostile aliens on the frontier. Human commanders learned to think fast, adapt quickly, and never do the same thing twice. They had developed an intuitive understanding of 3-dimensional combat that no computer could calculate. Captain Peterson demonstrated this when he led his destroyers in what looked like a panicked retreat directly toward a Nexus battle formation. The machine ships prepared to destroy the fleeing humans, but at the last second, Peterson's squadron split apart like a flower blooming. Each destroyer fired a full spread of missiles as it passed through the alien formation, and 16 Nexus vessels exploded simultaneously. How did they know exactly where to fire? Prime Node 7742 demanded of its tactical subroutines. We had not yet moved to those positions. The answer was simple, but the machines could not understand it. Peterson had looked at the alien formation and made an educated guess about where they would move, based on 300 years of human experience fighting in space. He had been right. All across the battlefield, the pattern was the same. The aliens brought their most advanced weapons and encountered human technology that should not have worked, but somehow did. They brought their most experienced commanders and faced human tactics that made no sense but achieved perfect results. They brought overwhelming numerical superiority and discovered that numbers meant nothing when the enemy could destroy 10 ships for every one they lost. The Stellar Dominion tried to use their energy form bodies to move at light speed around human ships, but the humans had developed weapons specifically designed to fight enemies that moved too fast to track. Plasma nets expanded at the speed of light and caught the energy beings like fish in a web. The Ancient Ones brought ships made of living stone that had survived since the galaxy was young, but human molecular disruptors turned ancient rock into drifting dust in seconds. The Void Hunters tried to use stealth technology to hide in the darkness between stars, but human sensors could detect the gravitational distortions their ships created. 6 hours after the battle began, half the alien armada was destroyed or disabled. The survivors were trying to retreat, but Admiral Bell was not finished with them yet. His voice came over all communication channels, reaching every alien ship in the area. This is Admiral Bell to all alien vessels. We did not give you permission to leave. You came here to teach us our place in your galactic order. Class is still in session. The human ships moved to surround the remaining alien forces. What had started as a battle was about to become a massacre, and the aliens finally understood that they had made a terrible mistake. These humans were not primitive newcomers who could be easily defeated. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that had spent its entire existence learning how to fight and win against impossible odds. Supreme Commander Zex Thul sent a desperate message back to the Galactic Council. Send everything. Send all our fleets. These humans are not what we thought they were. They are still getting stronger. The alien retreat was turning into a complete disaster when the desperate communications began. Admiral Bell ordered his intelligence officer, Commander Helen Price, to monitor all enemy transmissions as the surviving alien ships tried to escape the battlefield. What she heard changed everything humans thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. Council Command, this is Battle Lord Ketharon of the Crimson Fleet, came the panicked transmission from the Vorthak flagship. The humans have weapons we have never seen before. My bioships cannot adapt fast enough. They are using kinetic weapons that move faster than our evolution can respond. Commander Price looked up from her monitoring station with surprise on her face. Admiral, these aliens are talking like they've never faced kinetic weapons before. How is that possible? Admiral Bell frowned as he listened to more intercepted messages. The aliens were describing basic human military technology, like it was some kind of revolutionary breakthrough. Kinetic cannons had been standard on human ships for over 200 years. Nexus Fleet Command, this is Prime Node 7742, came another transmission. Human tactical patterns do not match any data in our combat archives. They appear to use random behavior that somehow achieves perfect coordination. This should be mathematically impossible. Random behavior, muttered Captain Greg Turner from his position at the tactical station. We call it thinking on our feet. How old are these aliens if they think basic improvisation is impossible? More alien communications revealed the truth piece by piece. The Galactic Council had existed for millions of years, but they had not spent that time advancing or improving. Instead, they had divided the galaxy among themselves and agreed never to fight each other. Each race had specific roles. The Vorthak were warriors, the Zephyrians were psychics, the Nexus were strategists, and so on. They haven't had a real war in millions of years, Commander Price reported as she analyzed the alien data streams. Each race has stayed in their assigned role and never changed. They're not advanced, they're stagnant. The most shocking revelation came when the aliens began discussing humanity's origins. Earth had been one of many worlds where the Ancient Ones had planted primitive life forms millions of years ago. Most of these experiments had developed according to plan, producing species that fit into the galactic order. Earth was supposed to be a failed experiment that never developed intelligent life. "They don't understand how we exist," said Lieutenant Bobby Chen from the science station. "According to their records, Earth should have produced a species of peaceful farmers or maybe simple traders. We were never supposed to become warriors." Admiral Bell studied the intelligence reports and began to understand why the battle had been so one-sided. The aliens had spent millions of years living in a carefully balanced system where no one ever challenged anyone else. They had forgotten what real competition looked like. Their weapons and tactics had not improved because they had never needed to improve. Meanwhile, humanity had spent its entire existence fighting. First, they fought each other in constant wars that drove rapid technological development. Then they fought pirates and hostile aliens as they expanded into space. Every human military officer had grown up studying the tactics of generals and admirals who had faced impossible odds and found ways to win. "Send a full-spectrum scan of their ships," Admiral Bell ordered. "I want to know exactly what we're dealing with." The scan results were even more revealing than the intercepted communications. The alien vessels were using technology that was thousands of years old. Their weapons were powerful, but inflexible. Their defenses were strong, but could not adapt to new threats. Their computers were sophisticated, but could only follow pre-programmed responses. Captain Lisa Hughes was monitoring the scans from her cruiser when she made the most important discovery. "Admiral, you need to see this. These alien ships are not just old. They're exact copies of ships from millions of years ago. They haven't changed their designs at all." The realization hit the human fleet like a shockwave. The Galactic Council was not an advanced civilization that had grown beyond war. They were a collection of ancient empires that had stopped growing entirely. They had achieved peace by agreeing never to change, never to compete, and never to improve. "No wonder they can't handle our tactics," said Commander Tony Rodriguez. "They've been using the same strategies for millions of years. They probably haven't seen a new idea since before humans discovered fire." The aliens seemed to understand what was happening because their communications became more desperate. Mindmaster Val Thune sent a frantic message to the psionic guard reserves. "The human minds are completely alien to us. They do not think like any species in our database. We cannot predict their behavior because they do not follow logical patterns." What the aliens could not understand was that human behavior only seemed illogical because they had forgotten what adaptive thinking looked like. Humans changed their tactics constantly because they had learned that any pattern could be predicted and defeated. They used intuition and creativity because pure logic was too slow for the chaos of real combat. Supreme Commander Zexthul made one final transmission before his flagship was destroyed by a human missile barrage. "Council Command, we are facing total defeat. The humans are not just stronger than us, they are still evolving. They learn from every engagement and become more dangerous. We have remained static for millions of years while they have continued to grow." Admiral Bell realized that the battle was more than just a military victory. The humans had not just defeated the alien fleet, they had exposed the fundamental weakness of the entire galactic order. The Council races had traded progress for stability and strength for peace. They had forgotten that in a dangerous universe, standing still was the same as moving backwards. "All ships, prepare pursuit courses," Admiral Bell commanded. "We're going to follow these aliens back to their home systems. It's time the galaxy learned that the age of stagnation is over." As human ships began tracking the retreating aliens, Commander Price intercepted one more transmission. It came from Elder Thyrix of the Ancient Ones and was addressed to all Council races. "Emergency session called immediately. The human threat is beyond our calculations. They represent something we have not seen in millions of years. A species that refuses To accept limits, we must decide whether to submit to their authority or face extinction. Admiral Bell smiled as he heard the message. The aliens finally understood what they were really fighting. They were not just facing another species trying to claim territory. They were facing the future, and the future did not ask permission to arrive. The surviving alien ships disappeared into hyperspace, carrying news of their defeat back to the Council worlds. Behind them, the human fleet began preparing for the next phase of the war. The real battle was about to begin, and this time the aliens would face humanity's actual military forces instead of just a patrol fleet. The galaxy was about to learn that evolution never stops, and humans had never stopped evolving. The emergency session of the Galactic Council took place on Zephyria Prime, while the crystal world still glowed with the blue light of ancient power. The 12 member races had ruled the galaxy for millions of years, but today their great chamber felt small and fragile. Most of their elite fleets had been destroyed by a single human patrol, and the survivors brought nothing but bad news. Elder Thyrix of the Ancient One stood at the center of the crystal hall, his body of living stone, showing cracks that had not been there before the battle. "The humans have revealed a truth we have forgotten," he said to the assembled leaders. "We have grown weak through millions of years of peace." Supreme Commander Zexthul was present only as a hologram since his flagship had been destroyed. His metal face showed damage from the explosion that had nearly killed him. "The humans did not just defeat us," he reported. "They made our most advanced weapons look like toys. Their simple kinetic cannons destroyed bioships that had evolved for millions of years." The other council members listened in stunned silence as the reports continued. Mindmaster Valthun described how human minds could not be read or controlled. Prime Node 7742 explained how human tactics made no mathematical sense, but achieved perfect results. Every alien leader had the same story: total defeat at the hands of enemies who should have been helpless. "How many ships do the humans actually have?" asked Hive Queen Mixandra, her insect wings trembling with fear. The answer came from Admiral Susan Carter, who had remained on Zephyria Prime during the battle. She stood up slowly and looked around at all the alien faces that had been so confident just days before. "The fleet that destroyed your armada was designated as Patrol Group 7. We have 43 other patrol groups just like it." The silence that followed was complete. 50,000 ships had been destroyed by one patrol group out of 44. The aliens began to understand the true scope of their mistake. "Impossible," said Core Entity Prime of the Stellar Dominion. "Our intelligence indicated that represented most of your military assets." Admiral Carter smiled for the first time since arriving on the Crystal World. "Your intelligence was based on what we wanted you to see. The real human military has been preparing for this war since we first learned about your council. We have been building ships and training soldiers for 300 years. On Earth, President Ryan Mitchell was already putting those preparations into action. The human homeworld had become the center of a vast military machine that stretched across dozens of systems. Shipyards that had been hidden inside asteroids were now revealing themselves. Military bases that had been disguised as mining colonies were activating their true purpose. Fleet Admiral Patricia Williams commanded the real human armada from her flagship, the UES Sovereign. Unlike the exploration vessels that had fought the aliens, these were pure warships designed for one purpose: to project human power across the galaxy. The Sovereign alone carried enough firepower to sterilize planets. "All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Williams," she announced over the command network. "Operation Galactic Dawn is now active. We have 43 patrol groups engaging alien forces throughout their territory. Our objective is complete occupation of all Council worlds within 30 days. Captain Kelly Murphy led the first wave toward the Vorthak home system. Her task force consisted of 200 ships, each one more advanced than anything the aliens had faced in the first battle. The humans had learned much from studying captured alien technology, and they had improved their weapons accordingly. "Remember, we're not here to destroy everything," Captain Murphy told her officers as they approached the Vorthak capital world. "We're here to establish human authority. Any aliens who surrender will be treated according to human military law. The Vorthak tried to defend their home system with the remains of their biofleets, but the result was the same as before. Human weapons tore through alien defenses like they were made of paper. Within 6 hours, Vorthak Prime was under human control, and Supreme Commander Zexathul was in custody. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as human fleets arrived at one alien world after another. The Nexus tried to use their mathematical precision to calculate perfect defenses, but human creativity made their calculations worthless. The Psionic Guard attempted to defend their crystal cities with mental barriers, but human troops wore armor that blocked psychic attacks. On Zephyria Prime, the council session continued as reports of defeat arrived from every member world. The Afar, ancient ones, had ruled space for millions of years, but their stone cities were being occupied by human marines. The Void Hunters had hidden in the darkness between stars for eons, but human sensors found them anyway. "We could surrender," suggested one of the minor council members. "Perhaps we can negotiate terms." Elder Theric shook his stone head sadly. "There are no terms to negotiate. We declared war on a species that was already stronger than all of us combined. The age of the Galactic Council is over." The final act came when human ships arrived at Zephyria Prime itself. Captain Robert Hayes led the assault force that surrounded the Crystal World. His message to the Council was simple and direct. "This is Captain Hayes of the human fleet. The Galactic Council is dissolved by order of Earth Command. All Council members will surrender themselves for processing. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force." Mindmaster Valthun was the first to surrender. His psychic powers had proven useless against human minds, and he had no other weapons to fight with. "I submit to human authority," he said as he walked out of the crystal chamber. "We ruled the galaxy for millions of years, but we had forgotten what real strength looked like." One by one, the other council members followed. Some tried to negotiate, others begged for mercy, but all of them eventually surrendered to human forces. The great crystal chamber that had echoed with alien voices for millions of years fell silent. Admiral Susan Carter was the last person to leave the council chamber. She looked around at the empty seats where the most powerful beings in the galaxy had once sat, and she thought about how quickly everything had changed. The aliens had demanded that humanity kneel, and instead they had found themselves on their knees. 3 months later, the human flag flew over every former council world. Human governors administered alien populations with firm but fair authority. The galaxy was at peace, but it was a human peace enforced by human strength. Admiral Marcus Bell stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance and watched human ships patrol space that had once been forbidden to them. His communications officer, Lieutenant Chris Baker, approached with a message from Earth Command. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 more alien species," Lieutenant Baker reported. "They want to join the human sphere of influence before we decide to conquer them too." Admiral Bell nodded and looked out at the stars that now belonged to humanity. The aliens had sent their strongest warriors and their most advanced fleets, but they had learned too late that strength was not about age or technology. Real strength came from the willingness to grow, to change, and to never accept defeat as final. "Send a message to all remaining alien governments," Admiral Bell said. "Tell them that humanity does not seek submission. We seek cooperation. But make it clear that the age of councils and committees is over. We don't negotiate our right to exist, and we don't ask permission to grow." The human expansion continued across the galaxy as more and more alien species chose to join rather than fight. The old order of stagnant empires was replaced by something new, a galactic civilization that embraced change and growth instead of fearing it. Humanity had not just won a war. They had inherited the stars themselves, and they would make sure that the galaxy never stopped moving forward again.